Welcome one and all to Umami Manga. I'm Petter and this is James.
Hello.
And today we're talking about volumes 7 and 8 of Vinland Saga. We are 8 volumes in and we have gotten through the prologue of the story.
Yeah.
I thought that was
prologue?
pretty fun. Yeah.
This is the prologue?
and the prologue...
I thought we already had the prologue.
Yeah, we thought so. If I'm not mistaken, the prologue, at least what it's called in the manga here, is exactly what was covered in the anime season 1, unless I'm mistaken. So the whole slave part with Einar and stuff like that at the end, I don't think was part of season 1. So I would assume that's going to be how season 2 starts. I could be mistaken since, I don't remember the anime adaptation all too well, but I don't think that was in it, at least.
It makes sense to end there instead of, there being before the time skip.
Precisely. Yeah, and so we are now more than caught up to the anime, supposedly. So I am completely unspoiled now, so we are on the same page exactly, which feels good, I think.
Feels good.
Let's start by talking about Thorfinn. And I want to start by talking about the epithet that he gains from having beaten Thorkell the Tall in battle, Karlsefni, which is, and it's explained at the end of the book in the translator's notes, but it's an Icelandic epithet that he got, like the real historical Thorfinn got. For some reason, I actually I haven't been able to find any kind of information about how the real Thorfinn got that title or epithet, Karlsefni. But it means the making of a man or a real man or something along those lines.
A real man.
Yeah. And it's actually kind of fun for me as a Swedish person. I can understand the first part of that word. I can understand as the present-day Swedish word for just man or like a male person, which is Karl or Karl, technically like Karl means like a man. Essentially, in Swedish.
Is it like Carl?
The name Karl, of course, is also a name here, and it's spelled the same way, but the L is silent in the word for a male person, like a man. Yeah, so it's like Kar, but it's spelled with an L, and so that is so today it just means a man, but back then, other than being Thorfinn Thorison's kind of epithet in that way, it also, as we learned in the later chapters of these volumes here, that it was also the word used for kind of just the common man, like a free man that wasn't a slave, but also wasn't like nobility in any sense.
Yeah, just a commoner.
So it was kind of interesting because that's something I didn't know, that supposedly the word had that meaning back in those days. So that was kind of fun.
That's cool.
Yeah. And again, I don't know how the real Thorfinn got the epithet Karlsefni, but it's fun, at least I think, in Vinland Saga, for the reason to be that he beats Thorkell the Tall, and how that kind of made him a little bit of a celebrity, supposedly.
Yeah, I was not expecting that sort of recognition and fame, although having beaten Thorkell the Tall, it makes sense.
Right.
I guess I didn't expect the rumors and the story to have passed so quickly. And like wildfire, kind of.
Yeah, for sure.
So it makes me wonder, going forward, will there be more people who was like, oh, I've heard of that name before, within the story or something like that, or will his name just kind of disappear altogether?
Exactly. Yeah, I wonder. At this point, it's hard to say
because he is accused of attacking the prince.
Precisely.
So maybe the people don't want to spread the good rumors about him anymore.
Yeah. Plus, he's a slave at this point, so like that's like the lowest kind of place you can be at. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
So, and like that name, like or that title, that epithet was definitely a very positive thing, So yeah, maybe he doesn't have that, or hard to say.
Well, it's hard to say, but the only way I could see it that him being a slave doesn't affect his name is that people don't know that's what he did. Like they kept the story and what happened to him separate, so they don't know exactly what happened to Thorfinn Karlsefni.
Karlsefni is how I say it, at least. I don't know exactly, but yes. And actually, I knew that he would have this epithet, at least I knew that the historical person that he's based on had that epithet. I knew since I think I mentioned it in our second discussion that before then I had just found out that Thorfinn actually was based on this real person, and so I knew he had that Karlsefni epithet, but I didn't mention it back then, just in case it would come up in the manga, so I didn't want to spoil. And I'm glad I didn't say it because it did indeed come up.
But this book was really hard for Thorfinn, I think. Both of these volumes, he gets his butt handed to him once again. I mean, for various reasons. One, his arm was still broken, but also, Askeladd just knows the guy, and he just doesn't think smartly when he's attacking him.
Yeah.
So he gets his butt handed to him, and then his whole reason for living is extinguished right before his eyes.
Yeah.
And now I feel like as a slave, he's kind of just lost and just listlessly, there we go, listlessly living life as just skin and bones, really,
Yeah, it's really sad. Yeah, just everything he had been fighting for the past 11 years just undone in an instant.
Yeah.
For him. Yeah. And I mean, it's just, well, we saw when in the scene when he met Leif Erikson, he, like, the only thing he told him, I guess, about his life a bit, I think, like, kind of off screen technically, but then the first thing he asks Leif Erikson about is Vinland. And like, he doesn't seem to care at all right now about his sister and mother, and like Iceland, which is also like just one of those really sad things about his character right now, or at least at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And when we see him later on as a slave, like, yeah, as you said, like, it's like he just seems completely ambitionless, kind of like just kind of, yeah, there's nothing to anything, kind of.
Right. Yeah, going on that, where he's just so interested. Well, he refuses to acknowledge his family. Part of that could be that he, doesn't want to say, "Hey, I goofed up," or, acknowledge that he still has family. But it could also be that he's just so caught up. Well, I guess I can't even say caught up, really, because Vinland to him is still just kind of a passing dream, if you will, compared to his revenge.
True.
That's what he's really caught up in.
Definitely, yeah.
But maybe the Vinland thing is something that he could potentially move on to. But I guess what I'm trying to say is maybe a real warrior, a true warrior, as was brought up again, maybe the one that he needs to strive for is someone that cares about his family or looks after his family, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Puts his own desires aside, or at least changes his desires to be one that watches over his family. I'm not entirely sure, but maybe that had something to do with it, because it did seem odd that he'd be so intent on hearing about Vinland instead of hearing how his family is going.
Yeah, I was also kind of surprised by that. I guess it's just been so long that maybe he has kind of gotten over them or something. I mean, that's incredibly sad if that's the case, but
yeah, for sure.
Vinland is still something that he has been, in a sense, dreaming about throughout. At least with his scene with Hordaland in the first book, that was only like about a year or two before Askeladd dies. So that was still kind of that was fresher in his head, at least. But yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say.
Indeed.
Could also be that he's trying to, like, kind of force himself to pursue his goal of killing Askeladd, like kind of like forcing himself to focus on that more than he maybe would, I guess, maybe. Okay. And if that's the case, then maybe he does deep down, maybe he does actually care about his family. Just he's trying to put up a front or kind of pretend to not, like, kind of force himself not to care about other things so that he can focus more on the goal that he, I guess, wants to pursue.
I definitely think that last part you mentioned is potentially the real reason, just kind of putting aside what he wants to care about for what he thinks he should be caring about.
Right.
That's revenge, and I guess maybe even Vinland, maybe? I don't know.
Right.
But yeah, I do expect him to eventually meet up with his family, whether his mother is alive or not.
Yeah,
But
yeah, he's got to. He's got to.
hmm
And I also hope that he gets another moment with Leif. I mean, Leif seemed to have. I mean, we're gonna talk about Leif more later, but since we're on the topic a bit,
sure.
Leif does seem to obviously have aged since last time we saw him. I guess I just hope based on how much Leif seemed to really genuinely care about Thorfinn, I really hope
hmm
that they get to meet again under better circumstances before it's too late.
Yeah, absolutely. If Thorfinn's gonna get to Vinland, then he's gonna need Leif, like, and his direction, at least some of his direction. Maybe not necessarily to get there, but how to get there.
Right?
I feel
Yeah.
like he he
Exactly.
he could help him. Anyway, I don't think we're anywhere near that part in the story if he does get to that point, but you know,
Mm.
it's Vinland Saga. Like it's
Yeah.
kind of got to
Exactly.
get to that point eventually, right?
Right. No, absolutely, absolutely. And yes, no, I think you're right. Even if Leif Erikson doesn't necessarily follow him there, if he goes there, he at least needs to talk about it with him again, I think.
Yeah. So I wonder if he ever holds a blade again.
Oh
Like
yeah.
it would be kind of, to me, shocking if he didn't, but it's he loses his dagger, the dagger that his father had supposedly,
Yeah.
or maybe it was his mother. I mean,
Mm,
maybe she had a secret
mm.
side hustle
Yeah.
that she threw away eventually. No, I'm kidding. I
But
don't
by the
know.
way, real quick on that, I'm
Uh-huh.
not entirely sure. Maybe I should have looked this up, although I didn't intend on saying this because it's just a very small little thing. But the symbols that are on those daggers,
Mm.
I'm gonna guess that those are like Nordic runes for the letter T, and so like two
Ah.
T's, which could be for, well, Thor's, and then maybe Thor's last name or something. So if that is the case, then they would have belonged to Thor's. But I mean, I don't know for sure, and none
Hmm.
of what I just said might be accurate anyway. But it was an idea that I had thought of at least.
Interesting. Well, it would work with Thorfinn because what his last name would be Thorson, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Right. Precisely. Although the historical Thorfinn's last name is Thordarson, so it's like slightly different. But yeah,
Ah,
but yeah, this one should be Thorson.
cool. Anyway, so he loses that dagger, which is very unfortunate. But I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't expect him to become a complete pacifist in a blink of an eye or anything like that. But
No.
it just makes you wonder, like, what kind of conflict is he going to experience going forward?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm not sure. And eh, I wonder if what Askeladd said before he died, be a true warrior. Does that actually
Yeah.
mean anything to him? Um, does he learn anything from that? Because I also wonder, what did that mean to Askeladd, but we can talk about that when we focus on him.
Mm.
But it just seems odd that a man who was so cunning, but was able to take people's lives and do what he had to do, but then he turns to Thorfinn and is like, no, you need to be a true warrior, like different, almost as probably like be different from me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Right. Maybe. Yeah. Hmm.
I don't know. So just
Yeah.
some thoughts I had.
I mean, at the very least, Thorfinn has changed a lot by the time we meet him or by the time we see him after that, I guess 1.5 year time skip.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if has anything to do with any of the words that Askeladd spoke to him in his final moments, or
Well,
I don't know.
yeah, I wouldn't say that.
No, I probably wouldn't say that either.
Yeah.
But at the very least, I guess eventually I hope that, I mean, Askeladd can't be forgotten. There's going to be something more, you know, to be learned from him. I think,
Yeah.
based on the fact that he really is the person that Thorfinn has spent the most time with in his entire life.
Makes sense.
And I think you mentioned last time that he is. I think you said uncle figure. You didn't want to say father figure, but
Yeah.
I think that's. Or maybe even. I guess it is unfair to say father figure, but still kind of.
Yeah.
Uh,
No, I
he
get it. I
like
get it.
in a sense he was that, and like in again, this is a little bit on Askeladd, but I feel like from Askeladd's point of view, in that last moment that they shared, it kind of felt like, at least from Askeladd's point of view, that there was that kind of a dynamic between the two. From Thorfinn's point of view, it's harder to say. He was definitely distraught, but not because of the fact that he was dying just in and of itself, but the fact that he hadn't gotten to kill him, and just all of everything he had strived for was just undone. But I don't know. I guess bottom line that I want to get to is just that Askeladd impacted Thorfinn's life immensely, and I'm
Right.
sure that even though he's not really influenced by him at the moment, there will come a time when he will find something like some kind of wisdom or something to learn from Askeladd.
Right. I think right now he's definitely in a kind of depression state,
Yeah.
and so maybe eventually he'll remember a few things. Maybe one of those things is what Askeladd told to him, and maybe that kind of gets him back to kind of what he was, but never the same. I don't think.
No.
I don't think he ever can be driven by that same kind of revenge. I'm
No.
not saying he's never going to have enemies or people that do terrible things to him, but I don't think he'll ever be driven that incessantly by revenge again.
Yeah. I guess one thing that he did learn there was to not put that much stock into revenge, or like that much effort into revenge.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
I guess that is one wisdom to gain.
Also, don't swipe at the prince, the king. Like not great.
Yeah, because I was thinking, well, obviously Canute didn't want to kill Thorfinn there, but
No,
yeah, and we don't know exactly how Thorfinn ended up where he is.
you're right.
But I feel like it's probably kind of safe to assume that it was Canute who chose for like slavery to be his punishment instead of death.
Right.
Obviously we don't know for sure, but it's my best guess.
I feel like that had to have been the other way. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
So that's also kind of sad.
Oh yeah, it is sad. He's currently in. Help me. Is it Jutland?
Jutland, or well, that's
Jutland.
yeah, it's part of Denmark, yeah.
Which is also where Askeladd's father, I guess, used to be, and I guess he lived there as well. And so I understand that like it's gonna be a big place, like it's not just a little town, right?
Yeah, no, it's a big like province, like region,
Right.
kind of in Denmark.
So now they're in like the southern part of it, and we don't know exactly where Askeladd was living. But I thought it'd be interesting if there was some sort of connection, like, oh, this person, and maybe Thorfinn meets someone who knew Askeladd or something like that. I'm not entirely sure.
Right, yeah.
But being in the same place, it just kind of not hints, but it could potentially suggest that kind of story.
Right, yeah, that's a good idea. I hadn't thought of that, but that's, yeah, interesting.
I wonder how short he is compared to his dad. I think we talked about this earlier, but
Yeah.
we see after the time skip that it doesn't look like he's really grown that much,
Yeah.
or at least he's still considered short.
Mhm.
And age 18, I guess.
I would
yes,
guess 19 or so now.
19, sorry.
Or,
19.
or maybe, I mean, it's not that big of a deal. But yeah.
So age 19, like, like, you're probably not gonna grow a whole lot more. Maybe you'll have a growth spurt randomly. It's possible,
but very unlikely. I
very
think.
unlikely. Yeah.
Mm.
I mean, look, there's nothing wrong with different heights. I mean, I feel I consider myself on the shorter end of the spectrum, but well, I'm more average, I guess. But yeah, it's just kind of funny. I did not expect him to kind of remain the size that he is.
Yeah. I also thought he would grow more, but yeah. I mean, it's also cool to have like, I guess a protagonist that, like a male protagonist that isn't, or that is supposedly below average height. I feel like that's not all that common in media, so I'm all for this. Diversity.
Yeah. And just a couple of things that Askeladd said to him before dying. I forgot to mention when we were talking about it, but what are you going to live for after I'm dead?
Yeah.
venture beyond the world he saw, which is meeting your father.
Yeah.
Be a true warrior, son of Thor's, and I don't know, just profound statements to say before you die.
Yeah.
But I guess give it up to Askeladd. But
Uh-huh.
I'm sure those words will come back to Thorfinn's mind eventually.
Yeah. Yeah. I really hope so. But then, shall we move on to Askeladd next?
I think so. The end of the best character.
Really? Yes,
in my
absolutely.
opinion.
100% agree, yes. And I want to start by talking about his name as well, and how this book makes clear that the Aske part of his name is indeed what I talked about in I think our first discussion, the Norse word for ash. And I think it still is in Norwegian and Danish. I think it's still Aske. And supposedly, and this is something I didn't know at all, that at least I think the Norwegian word lad is like lad, like boy in English. So it is like the Ashen boy or the Ashen lad or the Ashen one, as I think it's also referred to as at some point in this book. So it's fun to get that confirmed, kind of, and that being due to him being like constantly kind of covered in ash and other things and stuff as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
But the translator's notes also mention a character from Norwegian folktales called Askeladden, who is, well, the inspiration for Askeladd's character, not like from Yukimura's point of view, or like from our point of view. It's not like I don't think it's in the world. I don't think Askeladden existed at this point in time, at least not that I know. So I think it's just kind of a meta reference in that sense.
Yeah.
But it is cool how Askeladden in the Norwegian folktales was like the youngest of three brothers, and he was never the one to be expected greatness or something or anything like that, but he always kind of succeeded anyway because he was able to use his wits to kind of overcome things. And I think that definitely kind of fits with Askeladd's character. It's not a one-to-one thing, of course, but it's definitely fitting. And I didn't know about this folktale character Askeladden before I read that thing in the translator's notes, but I read up on it a little bit after that, and I talked about it with my father for some reason, and he apparently knew about Askeladden. So it is something that people, at least here in the Scandinavian countries, are, at least some of us are aware of that character from the folktales. So I thought that was fun that my dad knew about Askeladden. And by the way, Askeladden is basically Askeladden is like the Askeladd, like, because the ending en is basically because we don't have like a word for the in our languages. And instead of putting the before a noun, we end the noun with either en or et, or just an n or a t. But anyway, yeah. So it's like the definite version of that.
Cool. I feel like I vaguely had heard of that story, although I couldn't remember the name for the life of me. But because it has something to do with Loki too, doesn't it?
Yeah. According to the translator's notes, at least, well, I don't know if it has anything specifically to do with Loki, but at least he is kind of similar to Loki in many ways.
Oh, okay.
At least that's how I understood it.
Gotcha. Anyway, yeah, cool comparison. But I think it's even cooler because, well, help me out, because maybe I could have been misremembering, but was this the first time we got his actual name, the Lucius?
Yes.
Artorius.
Lucius Artorius Castus.
Castus.
Yeah, like the name his mother gave him. Yeah, it was the first time he said that, but in our first discussion of this series, I had looked up, like, because I got curious when he said that he had an ancestor Artorius, so I had been looking up, like, who could that have been, and I had found this Roman military commander who lived in the 2nd century called Lucius Artorius Castus, who I mentioned in our first discussion.
Right.
So that might have been what you remember that name from, perhaps.
Yeah, I do remember us talking about it.
Right. Yeah. But to be clear, that is not the same Artorius that was mentioned in Volume 4, and also a bit in here in Volume 7 too. It's not the same one.
Really?
Since the one that's mentioned in Vinland Saga, like in the manga, was an Artorius who lived in the 5th and 6th centuries, like about 500 years before this story takes place. So that could not have been the Lucius Artorius Castus who lived in the 2nd century.
Oh.
That's what confuses me. So I still don't know if the Artorius, like the one referred to in the manga, is actually a real historical person. I still don't know about that.
Well, yeah, that's fair. But it could also be that he for whatever reason, just decided to change the date of how many centuries it was.
Yeah, moving it like 300 years or so in time, or like
Yeah.
300 to 400 years.
For whatever reason. I mean, I don't.
Yeah.
Maybe it was to make the bloodline less thin.
Yeah. I don't know.
Because if I'm being honest, I find it kind of suspicious, or not suspicious, but I don't fully believe that he is the true heir to Britannia.
No, like yeah,
like-
that's definitely questionable.
Right. But I mean, I appreciate him going full heart. You know, you go Askeladd. You take that. You take that crown.
Absolutely.
Because even Canute is like, well, you have just as much right to the throne as I do. Like, does he though? I mean, as a
Yeah.
human being, and I guess his cunningness. Like, sure, I guess he could be a good ruler, I suppose. Although I don't know. I don't even know if that's what Askeladd would want really. But I just the whole bloodline thing doesn't quite work for me, or I just don't think he could potentially be royalty. Like it
Right.
didn't make sense. Anyway,
Mm-mm.
that's a little thing, but I do appreciate that whole entire scene of getting his true name and then taking off the king's head.
Yeah, and which really was sort like a little bit kind of symbolically envisioned or kind of foreshadowed on the cover of this book, where Askeladd has the crown on his sword, which really like knowing what happens in the book, it almost feels like a spoiler, even though obviously I hadn't gotten that idea from this image to begin with, but it definitely, yeah, it's a good picture, I think.
I'll be honest, I did not expect the king to die quite yet, you know? I mean, I didn't expect for this to be the prologue.
Right, yeah, no, exactly. No, and I remember when we talked about the king and stuff in previous discussions, I also got the vibe from you that you expected him to stay around for a bit longer.
Yeah.
But I knew, since I had read up on the historical things, I knew that Svein Forkbeard would die in early 1014. So I sort of expected that he wouldn't stick around for too long.
Gotcha.
But obviously I stayed quiet about that.
Yeah, no. That's all good. I mean, because I really did think that maybe he'd be pushed back to Denmark and then there would be some sort of battle, but that could be something else that happened entirely. But anyway, I had so much emotion when reading this. I mean, I wasn't crying or anything, but I was. Oh, there you go.
I was crying.
And I think that how he goes out is so true to his character.
Yeah.
It's also interesting to see him lose control in the way he did.
Or, well, he's playing it up. He's
playing it up.
Kind of acting.
No, I totally get it. He's playing it up. But throughout the whole series, he kind of has a cool head about him.
Yeah.
And then in the previous book, he loses himself. He loses cool, and he's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry about that."
Yeah.
And then in this book, it happens more often because people goad him into it when they say certain things like, "Your mother was a slave," or "We're going to attack Wales," or something like that.
The king really pushes his buttons, and you can really
Right.
you really feel for him, because you notice, like, and as you said, since he isn't typically the one to show those sorts of feelings, when he does, it holds so much more weight than it would like for most other characters.
Absolutely. So, yeah. So seeing that was great, and then like you said, that last part where it was basically just he was just pretending to be on a rampage. I mean, that's going all. Talk about like great Oscars award. I mean, just to Askeladd for going all the way. I guess.
Laughing like a maniac all the way through. Oh yeah, that was so good. Oh man, and like speaking of the parts in these two volumes that made me cry, actually. So when Askeladd killed Björn, I cried a little bit.
Oh yeah.
And when Askeladd himself died, I cried a lot. So yeah, that's
yeah. Both those moments were really tragic and just well, the Bjorn one was kind of bittersweet in a way.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
The fact that he just wanted to be Askeladd's friend.
Yeah.
And that he got that confirmation right before he died, like that he was his only friend, and like I'm sure he died satisfied.
Absolutely. not only does he go to Valhalla, he has a friend. Like, he was able to be a friend to Askeladd is great.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I thought he was gonna live. I remember I said that in our previous discussion. I was like, no. Bjorn will live. I think Bjorn will kind of have a bit of a role. No, I was totally wrong. But no, this is a great way for him to go.
It was beautiful.
At least in terms of the Norse mentality. I still think it would have been great to have him along and still be a character, but that wasn't gonna happen.
Yeah.
And to be fair, he had a pretty fatal wound, so.
Very, yeah.
Yeah, and I just, my one and only friend. I really like that.
Yeah, that was so sad.
Yeah.
But back on Askeladd, or?
Yeah. So learning about his backstory, it does kind of have parallels, or at least it starts off kind of similar to Thorfinn in that they both have a grudge against a man, their greatest enemy.
Yeah.
Difference being is that Askeladd actually got the job done and did whatever he had to. I mean, cunningly, and with wit. But he did end his father's life.
Absolutely.
And pinned the blame on one of his brothers.
Oh yeah. Oh, that was cold. But yeah, and also the fact that they lived with the man that they hated so much for at least a couple of years. Like in Askeladd's case, it was just 2 years, but still, that is also a similarity there.
Yeah, so I guess the difference is that Askeladd was willing to do whatever it took, and Thorfinn was too prideful, I guess, or like too set in his ways. Like, it had to be a certain way.
Yeah, that was really his mistake, I suppose.
I mean, not that I wanted him to kill him per se.
No, not like me neither. But if he wanted to kill him, his best bet would have been to kill him in his sleep or something like that,
Right.
In the first discussion, we talked about what Askeladd himself might be a slave to, since he brought up that whole idea about everyone being a slave to something.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think this book kind of points toward his slavery being to Wales and to Avalon.
I was
primarily
thinking very similarly. Yes.
Cool. And but also partially to Prince Canute, even. Because if he hadn't had some sort of loyalty, I should say, to Prince Canute, he would have just killed Prince Canute to prevent King Svein from invading Wales, right?
Right.
But he wanted to save both Wales and Prince Canute, which I think points toward him being, in a sense, more or less at least, a slave to both. But also, Avalon and the Artorias, like his ancestor supposedly, and all of that, obviously is more like, I guess, his primary slavery.
He's concerned. I mean, I guess part of the reason why he put his trust in Canute was so that he could save Wales and just kind of, I guess, his people potentially.
True. Yeah, I mean, exactly. And exactly. Because if he had, I guess, agreed to King Svein's terms, where he would have, hypothetically killed Canute in order to prevent the king from attacking Wales, I guess that wouldn't even have been a sure thing necessarily, because he couldn't trust King Svein. King Svein might have attacked Wales regardless. So yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a good point. So maybe he didn't necessarily have that strong of a loyalty to Canute.
I mean, I'm not necessarily saying that,
No, fair, but still, I guess it might not be comparable to his loyalty to Wales. I think that's probably right.
Some other ideas I had potentially for what he'd be a slave to, maybe his hatred towards, I guess, not just Danes, but just warriors. Like, he mentions like how much he hates warriors.
Yeah.
But then you look at him and, man, he's a warrior himself. And I think he even says it's kind of ironic that, I picked up at the sword for the first time and it just felt so natural, and it must have been the genes of my old man. How kind of ironic that is.
Yeah.
So I wonder if there was kind of some self-loathing there as well.
I think it was. I mean, didn't Bjorn say something about Askeladd hates himself as well, like including all of that, which I think there was probably truth to that.
Absolutely. So yeah, I think those are some pretty good ideas to what he could be a slave to, and I do like how the book doesn't really spell it out for you. It's like
Yeah.
Askeladd was a slave to this, you know.
Definitely, yeah.
I mean, obviously clarity is nice, but I also like the idea of thinking for ourselves to understand these characters and what they could be thinking.
Absolutely. Yeah, man. Askeladd is such a good character. He's like such a well written character. I love.
Absolutely.
So, Oh man, for so many reasons, I just love him. And actually, another thing, another scene that I really appreciated with him in this, I think it was in Volume 7, was when he gave the gold armband to Atli, kind of to help him
Yeah.
out on his travels, and he heeded him to never swing a sword ever again. And I read that as Askeladd basically knowing at that point that fighting isn't Atli's thing, is not his calling.
Right.
So he's encouraging him to find a different calling. So I guess with that in mind, I just think that's just a very sweet gesture of Askeladd.
Right. I guess since we're on Otley, I just mentioned that they're still alive. So
yeah,
I guess
exactly.
there is potential that they could come back into the story eventually.
Yeah.
I doubt it has any sort of antagonist or
No.
any sort of bad feelings, but anyway, I think that could be something down the line.
Yeah, and I think Atli and Torgrim, if they do come back, they will be completely harmless.
Right. And I hope they are living a great life.
Yeah.
But going back to Askeladd, noticing that he's just not really fit for this warrior lifestyle or this like sword fighting lifestyle.
Yeah.
I wonder if he felt the same way with Thorfinn.
Mm.
Because he mentions being a great warrior again. Like that's another thing that comes up. And so I what does that mean to Askeladd? Did he know something, or does he feel like he knew something? He knew what even Thor's was trying to get at. I'm not sure. But again, that's definitely going to be fuel for Thorfinn to eventually evaluate his life.
Right. Yeah, for sure. But about that true warrior thing from Thor's, I thought it was kind of funny how Askeladd kind of, well, defeated Thorfinn very easily in their duel without using his sword at all. And obviously it doesn't prove that he's a true warrior or anything, but he did not use his sword in that duel.
You're right.
Except I guess for the very end where he sort of was intending on killing him with the sword, although Canute intervened and he just stabbed the snow. Although he may have not even done it anyway.
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of like 50-50.
Yeah, true.
So I guess fast forward. Do you think that Askeladd had planned to kill the king, like be the scapegoat for Canute from the very beginning? Maybe not the very beginning, but at least the beginning of this book.
I'm gonna say no. Although there was a part where it kind of seemed like there was a foreshadowing to it when he said that like a high level officer or whatever like should like ideally be the one to kill the king for for Prince Canute's benefit. So with that I could sort of see it, but no, I don't think he was intending for it, because in that scene where he killed him, it didn't seem like he had that plan at all. Like based on his their scheming and everything before that, and based on his own kind of thought monologue at the moment, it seemed like he really just tried to, basically the only reason why he caused any kind of friction with the king at all was just because the king had mentioned Wales and his plans to attack Wales. I think if it hadn't been for that, I don't think any of that would have happened.
Absolutely. I agree, at least at that time.
Right. Yeah.
I think their plans changed after the first few chapters, because they went and saw the king and they realized that they were going to be at a standstill. And so they had to change some plans, because I think they went in there with the potential thought of actually killing the king right then and there. But they had to see how it went, how it would go.
Do you mean the first time that they came face to face with him?
Yeah, the first time, like the first
right
2 chapters.
Right. Yeah.
So it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, I don't think Askeladd would be willing to give, or is always willing to just die for any cause. But I think maybe that was something that was on his in the back of his mind, thinking, okay, I guess I may have to be the one to do this. But no, I do think that the plans eventually changed, and they had no intentions of it actually going down that way.
Gotcha.
Until, he mentioned attacking whales.
Yeah.
He done goofed up, Sven.
Yeah, he
Done
did.
goofed up.
And just another great moment from Askeladd, I thought, was how he started insulting the king, like insulting the king's face to his face.
Yes.
Like it
So great.
really got my blood pumping, like so good. And like, yeah, obviously followed by the decapitation, but oh my god.
Man,
yeah.
you ugly.
Yeah, you ugly fuck. Like, like how dared he? But he dared. And oh my god, I love him for it. Anything more on Askeladd?
Nope.
Okay, then let's talk about Prince Canute. Or is he king now? I'm not entirely
I don't know.
sure.
It's hard to say. He has control of the military, so he's captain chief or chief captain or whatever you call it.
Something like that. Yeah.
Chief commander.
Mm-hmm.
Commander in chief. That's the American term.
Cool.
Commander in chief.
Gotcha. Something that we saw a little kind of early on in this book here was how, well, he clearly believes in God, but he seems to be very angry at God for
much so.
Basically for not intervening when he and his father are in a conflict. And well, Knute's own plans were to kill his father, and he's angry for God for not intervening in that moment. It just sounds weird to me. I don't know.
It's I see what you're saying now. I didn't think of it as being weird, but for me it's not just that he's going to kill his father, but his father originally was trying to kill Canute,
Fair. Yeah. Actually, that is a good point.
So why would he? But I feel it's more, why is he allowing us to exist in this world where father and son try to kill each other and stuff like that? That's there's no love here. There's no happiness. There's no paradise.
Yeah.
You're just putting us through all these meaningless trials. And I kind of like how he is being all sassy towards God in a way. Well, he's sassy throughout this whole book. Like his sassiness is just like 3 levels higher. But I wonder if this is another jab at his father in a way, like his actual father. But I do think he's letting out his frustrations towards his God and just zamamiro, as they say in Japanese, in your face.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of a situation.
Right.
I don't know why Japanese came out. I was like, why can't I think of the word or the phrase in English?
It's all good.
Yeah, he says you'll build an ideal country for those that live in suffering. So it makes you wonder if he's going to try to end slavery. Is that too progressive for his time?
Not sure.
Or is he just going to stay away from war in general? Is that what his plan is?
I have no idea, really.
Yeah. Well, either way, I think it'll be interesting to see what he does with the crown.
Yeah.
Because I do think there is going to be some sort of bloodshed in his future, probably with his brother. I don't think his brother's going to take this lying down. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't even know the guy. We don't even know the guy yet. We haven't seen him in the manga.
Yeah.
But anyway, speaking of that crown, he calls his father a slave to the crown.
He does.
It's like, oh hey, there's that theme again.
Yeah, right, exactly. The slavery theme, but also because King Svein says the crown possesses a will of its own, and without going into detail here, that reminded me a lot of something from Attack on Titan, and I guess you'll know if you know, I guess. But it's something that I just thought it was nice, especially since we know that Isayama, who wrote or did Attack on Titan, was inspired by, or at least supposedly inspired by, at least Askeladd's words of, everyone being a slave to something, with one of his characters. And I could see this being potentially an inspiration for something in his story as well. Obviously not necessarily, but potentially. But yeah, the crown possesses a will of its own.
Oh, okay.
If that brings you any kind of ideas,
I can kind of see where you're going with it. It's a little different, but
absolutely.
I could see the inspiration.
It's like more metaphorical in Vinland Saga and more like fantastical, kind of supernatural in Attack on Titan.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm leaving it there. If you know, you'll know. At this point, I think you'll know if you know. But anyway, I just thought that was an interesting bit. I like it not just for the fact that it resembled Attack on Titan to me, but also, or I guess maybe the other way around. But
well, the concept itself.
Exactly, the concept itself
is interesting.
Absolutely. And so yeah, I guess makes you wonder how and if is Canute going to change now that he wears the crown.
Yeah, it could be interesting either way. Like maybe Canute, defies the quote unquote will of the crown, and does what he believes is right, or uses it for his paradise, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm.
Or does he become just like his father, corrupt and power hungry?
Yeah, right. But Canute being kind of faked out to be a woman was an interesting bit of that. What were your thoughts when you saw that? Did you think it was real?
No, I didn't think it was real.
Okay.
Because Askeladd, like
yeah.
He was all like, "Oh, what if you died?"
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so they're gonna fake something. And so yeah, when he got shot, I was like, "Oh no, what's gonna happen?" I didn't think they actually would kill someone though.
No.
For some reason, I thought there'd be like, "Oh, it didn't actually go through me" or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But then someone died, and you see it's definitely a woman. It's like, holy crap. Side note, there was a lot of nudity, or more nudity in this than I thought there'd be. But obviously, this kind of nudity it's like you're watching a National Geographic. Kind of that was a bad way of explaining it. It's not necessarily graphic per se. It's just life. It's not meant to be pornographic.
Yeah, it's not sexualized or anything.
Yeah,
right.
It's not sexualized, right?
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
for sure.
Anyway, it was a funny joke though.
Yeah. And I mean, I remember when I saw the anime, because I remember this bit from the anime, and I was just confused as all hell. I was like, what? I don't know if I had maybe I had missed Askeladd's comment before that, perhaps, or like something. I was just really confused.
I wonder if that was totally intentional. Maybe either from the start, or maybe as he was creating the story, maybe he heard people saying that Canute, must be a girl, and so maybe he put this in there to really mess with people.
Right? Yeah. I could imagine that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought it was pretty clever. I mean, too bad that kill someone for that, and
yeah. Or I mean, maybe she made it. It's not. We don't necessarily know, because they say if the dart was poisoned, then she wouldn't make it. But there was maybe a small chance that she could have made it otherwise if it wasn't poisoned. So maybe she made it.
Maybe, but I do think that Askeladd says she died.
You did?
Yeah.
Oh, I missed that if he said that, but
it's like first he was pained by the death of that slave woman, but this.
Oh.
So, yeah, I don't think she made it.
Or maybe.
But maybe he's just assuming that.
Exactly. Died. Yeah. I think that's kind of how I read it, at least when I got there, or like when I read that page.
But like, let's be honest. Is she ever gonna come back to the story?
No.
How would you know? It's like, I've seen you somewhere. She flashes. That's where I've seen.
Well, I mean, she has the same face as
true.
Him,
yeah.
Right?
Okay. I went back and forth, like for the moment that she got stabbed, and then to when Askeladd tells Canute of his plan or whatever. They went back and forth to see if there's any facial difference. None. Absolutely zero.
Yeah. Right.
Facial difference.
Yeah. But Canute, I was really glad that he understood why Askeladd did what he did. Like, he understood that Askeladd was basically put with that dilemma, like Canute or Wales,
Hmm.
And he honored Askeladd by canceling the subjugation of Wales. I'm really happy that he held up that end of the bargain essentially.
Absolutely.
Very respectable.
Canute is probably my second favorite character, just because of his character growth. It's just phenomenal, and the person he is, I think it's admirable and something I really like.
Fair, totally fair. Anything more on him?
Nope, I think that's it.
Then let's move on to my second favorite character, at least at this point of the story, Thorkell. I'll start off by saying something that I should have probably said last time, but I'll say it now because I want to have this mentioned because it's a little fun thing historically about Thorkell the Tall, is that it is like supposedly a bit unclear how exactly Thorkell ended up joining Knute's forces after having previously opposed him, like the real historical Thorkell, because that whole thing is accurate. How he opposed Knut or opposed the Danes
Yeah.
at first, but then somehow ended up joining Knut's forces. But it's unclear historically exactly how that ended up happening. So I just think it's really funny and kind of interesting how we get this kind of fictional explanation to that in this manga, at least. Obviously, it's nothing to take seriously historically, but it's still fun that Yukimura gave or like found a way to explain that in his story, I think.
Absolutely. And it's not just like, money or something like that. It's
Yeah.
the guy just really likes thrill of the fight, and he sees something in Canute, and I
Exactly.
like that a lot.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's definitely about Knute's growth as well. And actually, another fun thing, this is just also kind of tied to the real world, is like at the feast that Thorkell was kind of asked to arrange, where he invited and drank with a bunch of the chiefs of Denmark. There was that one chief of Scania, the one that had like one of his sons had died, but he had like five others, so he wasn't bothered by it.
Mm-hmm.
Scania, which was the area that he was the chief of, is a province in Sweden present day, but it belonged to Denmark back then. And basically, in the times between this time age and like the 1600s or maybe the early 1700s, Sweden and Denmark were in war and like fought over that land area
Wow.
for hundreds of years. Uh,
Hmm.
and it is coincidentally Scania is the province in Sweden where I live. So it is, yeah. I live in what used to be Denmark back in the day, but then it's gone back and forth, and until like I think early 1700s or so, it's been Swedish since then. But yeah, I just thought it was funny how my province was mentioned here in the manga.
That's cool.
Hmm.
He's basically a pirate now. Just the way he looks, the
Yeah,
eye patch.
for sure.
Uh, you know, I didn't think he got much action in this book, and
Not
not that
too
he didn't
much.
have lines per se, but it was more so that he didn't even get to fight. I don't
Yeah,
think he threw one punch.
you're probably right. And yeah, it was funny, or it was interesting, I think, at the kind of the climax of Volume 8, where Askeladd was slaying all of those people in the hall, and
Uh-huh.
kind of at the beginning of it, Thorkell kind of wanted to, well, he sort of wanted to join him or like do something, or he was also like alternatively kind of just feeling jealous. Kind of he wanted to be the one killing all those people, kind of. Um, but then when it kind of came down to it, and Knut asked him to basically be the one to finish Askeladd once everything, or kind of when the time was right, he kind of declined that offer, quote unquote, and he did Knut to do that job himself, which I thought was big of him, since what we know about him is that he's
Right.
such a he loves killing and he loves fighting, and for him to actually back out of that idea and suggest that somebody else kill Askeladd was yeah, a big move for him, I think.
Not only that, but he understood that it was important Canute be the one to do it.
Yeah,
That
exactly. It was smart.
that they see that, and it gave him more credit to take the crown and be the leader.
Yeah.
Um, Otherwise, then I don't think it would have been impossible, but it would have been uh, at least harder for the the noblemen that were there to view Canute as the rightful, I guess, ruler of the army / potential king.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure how the coronation and the the next ruler is going to be figured out, but
Right.
yeah, but good on Thorkell.
Absolutely. The last thing I'll say on Thorkell was just a really, really funny bit where he says to Knut, he says, "Admit it, you're a woman, aren't you? Show me your cock."
Yeah.
It totally caught me caught me by surprise because I don't think I noticed the "show me your cock" part my first time reading, and so today when I reread it, I saw that because it's kind of just written at the on the corner of the panel,
Right. Yeah.
and I was like, "Wait, oh my god, he actually said that." I don't know, just funny bit.
Just bros. They're just bros.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, at this point, yeah, I'd say they're bros.
No, for sure. I do have one more thing.
Hmm?
Is that it seems as though he never knew that Askeladd was the one that killed Thor's, or at least led to his death.
Right.
Because he doesn't really understand why Thorfinn wants to kill Askeladd.
Exactly.
So I wonder if that will ever be revealed to him, or if he will ever know that it was actually Floki who wanted Thor's dead.
Exactly.
And how will he take that? Will he be... I mean, because usually when he sees people fighting or whatever, he kind of encourages them, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But in this case, someone that he cared about deeply, you know, his niece's husband, like...
Yeah.
I don't know, like... I don't know how he'll take that, and maybe that'll be fuel to get Floki.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
It doesn't seem that Thorkell really likes Floki right now anyway.
Yeah, right. There is already some sort of friction between them.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like, I mean, more drama. I mean, I'm all for it.
Oh yeah, I'm all for it, yeah. Bring it on.
Yeah. But moving on to Leif Erikson. Well, he's back. And he's
bald.
He's bald, and he's searching for Thorfinn on the slave market as just kind of on a hunch, like at least on that first time when he's searching. But yeah, like I don't know, when they did finally meet, the part that really got me was at the end of that whole conversation when Thorfinn walks away and Leif just kind of calls after him, but he's just ignored. Like, mm-hmm. that part was, I think, very sad.
Yeah. And it's through him that we see, or that we learn about his weak mother, and that his sister is married and has 3 children.
Exactly, right. Yeah, Ylva has kids now.
Wow. It makes sense since she was talking about taking a husband to help with the labor.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, well, I wish I could have seen that.
Too bad.
I blame Thorfinn.
We blame Thorfinn, yeah. But then in 1015, after the time skip, we also saw him on the slave market searching for Thorfinn, and at that point he had more reason to believe that he would be there somewhere.
Yeah.
He had supposedly heard at that point that Thorfinn had become a slave and even been sold at that same slave market.
And I guess he was right.
Yeah, exactly. It was probably right. I just keep really hoping that he'll get to meet Thorfinn again sometime soon. Hopefully in the next book, like the next 2 volumes. I really hope that.
I mean, what's his name's got to be like, oh yeah, there was someone looking for you, Thorfinn.
Oh yeah, Einar.
And he'll talk exactly like that.
Oh no, when the anime comes out, that's how he's gonna be talking.
Oh
no.
Anyway.
Anything else on Leif?
No,
there wasn't that much. But next up, well, there's mostly just small ones left, but a bit on Gunnar. I thought it was really funny how you could really tell right off, like when, the moment you see him, like, okay, that's Ragnar's brother, because you can see on the,
I wonder who Ragnar brothers could be. Oh, that's him.
Yeah, just kind of, he's basically the Luigi to Ragnar's Mario.
He's even a coward like Luigi.
Yeah, you're right.
I'll take Luigi any day. That's
Yes.
my boy.
Yeah, no,
Not so
absolutely.
much, not so much Gunner.
No, yeah, yeah, he wasn't as cool. But um yeah, I don't actually have anything more on him except for the fact that yeah, just the funny bit that we could actually tell so easily that it was him.
So I just wonder if he is gonna stay at Canute's side since the king
Ah.
is dead, because he was kind of sitting in the middle of the fence. But now the king is dead. Is he gonna stay with Canute, or is he gonna run tail between his legs to the other brother, or is he gonna start doing that
Ooh.
in between, on the fence kind of thing again? I don't know.
Yeah, right. I would assume that Canute wouldn't want Gunnar on his side.
No, I would as well. I mean, especially after Askeladd's like, "Pff, don't like the guy. You
Yeah,
can't trust him as far as you throw him.
exactly. So yeah, I guess it remains to be seen. And like, the fact now is that the story is definitely like, or well, Thorfinn has been separated from all of the other characters at this point, so it's kind of hard to
Mm-hmm.
know kind of how much focus is the rest of the cast gonna get in the next
Good
like in
point.
like the following volumes.
You're right.
Um, like that's kind of a little bit of a worry that I have. Like, are we gonna see much of Knut or Thorkell, for example, in the coming books?
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea.
Ah, it would be kind of a shame to never see them again. Like, it
Mm,
would be a complete shame if we never saw Thorkell's death, because Thorkell, he's got to die in battle, right? Like, that's got to be
I
his
hope so.
final thing. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, in truth, I want everybody to live a happy life and live a long life. But that's just not Thorkell. His
No.
dream is to die in battle,
Yeah, he has to. Yeah.
and it would be so satisfying to see his dream be fulfilled.
Yeah.
So hopefully, yeah, hopefully his story and Canute is not done in the manga.
I hope so. I definitely hope so. Yeah. I would be fine with them being out of the story for a while, but
Yeah, oh yeah,
if they're out
sure,
forever, then I would be disappointed.
absolutely. Like a while is fine. It's just the forever part that I don't want.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure.
um, but one last thing about Gunner is you're probably surprised. Like, wow, he has so much on Gunner.
Yeah, I am actually.
No, he asked for his steak well done. He's a heathen. So that another reason not to trust him.
When I read that, yeah, because I remember someone said that, like someone wanted their steak well done. I didn't even pay attention to who said it, but I guess it was him.
It's got to be it. No one else has that cone head.
Yeah, you're right.
Now I'm kidding. You can eat your food however you want. Just do not ever try to feed me well done steak. No. Stop.
Yes, yes.
And thus ends the Gunner lore. I'm
Cool.
done.
Good. Then let's talk a little about Willibald next, and probably not much, but I thought it was hilarious that that was him because I did not see that coming. I should have
Uh
probably.
huh.
What about you?
For me, it was just kind of, well, who else could it be, right? But I was still shocked when I saw him. It's like, what? Like, who is this man? And like, this cannot be the same person.
No.
But he's drinking a lot, and he's a friar, like,
Yeah.
or some sort of
Like monk
know,
or something.
holy monk thing. So like,
Mm.
who? Anyway, yeah. So that was a very funny moment.
Yeah, it was great, and he was only like what, 23.
Yeah.
I also think it's nice how they kind of keep kind of that way of saying numbers like 3 and 20, which
Hmm.
I think is the way we said it in Old Norse, and I think it's still the way they say it in Danish. I could be
Oh.
wrong about that.
Hmm.
It's at the very least I know it's the way they say numbers in German. Um, I know that at least, so maybe that's something that's also stuck around from that era, kind of.
Interesting. I did not know that about German.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Well, the German thing is the only one I think I know for sure that that's how they say numbers. Uh, Moving on to Einar, the new character we get in the last two chapters here.
Yeah.
He became a slave rather recently, supposedly, and yeah, like we've just barely gotten to know him, but something I think is respectable with him is just kind of his very righteous mindset and like how he well he tries to and wants to stand up for himself, even though obviously he is like, well, he's a slave and like the lowest thing one can be in the society, but he's still really trying to stand up for himself and yeah, trying to do good, I suppose. I think that's cool.
Indeed, and I think he sounds like he'll be a character for a good while.
Yeah, I got that feeling too.
At least just the fact that he is kind of the one narrating the last 2 chapters in this book, and then he says, "This is the first time I met Thorfinn," so it feels like he might kind of take over the storytelling for a little bit. And you know what? I mean, and maybe they'll part ways in the next few books. I don't know, but it does kind of seem like he almost is like a not traveling, but a companion for Thorfinn.
Yeah.
I guess at this point he is a
Right.
slave companion.
Yeah.
Tree cutting buddies.
Yeah.
Also, he's a simp.
Oh yeah, apparently, yeah. At the very end, we saw just like one glimpse of
one glimpse. That's all it took.
Kettle's daughter. I mean, I guess it's his daughter.
I don't know who it is.
I would assume that was Kettle's daughter. I could be wrong though. It was some woman at least.
That was the assumption I had at first as well. But you know, as I was watching, I was like, is it like a concubine? Is it another slave? I don't know.
Yeah, no idea.
But I think daughter is makes the most sense.
Safest bet probably.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess for 2 reasons I'm a little bit worried about Einar now. Is firstly because of this, well, crush or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, is like that definitely could get him in trouble if he tries to pursue that potentially. The other thing that I think could get him in trouble is the fact that he is so like he is, well, he stands up for himself in the way that we've seen him do, and how that definitely could also get him in trouble in some ways. So yeah, I guess there's reason to worry about him.
Absolutely. I think that's all I have on him.
I see. Then yeah, I have nothing more either. And then let's talk a little bit about his master Kettle.
Yeah, that's who I wanted. That's who I was going to go to.
Cool. Okay.
I'm still unsure if Kentel's like completely cool, chill guy.
Yeah.
Or if he, I don't know, is kind of bamboozling them in a way. I don't know. I don't know. I guess I just have deep distrust for a lot of things.
No, I think with good reason.
I don't want to be like, I don't want to just think it's all sunshines and rainbows, or everything's gonna work out okay. I mean, they're already put into a situation where it just seems it's gonna take forever to get that freedom.
Yeah.
But will he actually grant them? Yeah, he has that one guy who claims he was got free eventually. I don't know. But maybe he's actually a really good guy.
Yeah, but I mean, and I also have my doubts, definitely, because I mean, sure, yeah, as far as slave owners go, yeah, he seems pretty great.
As far as slave owners,
but yeah, I wonder if are we just meant to believe that at this point? Because Einar asked Thorfinn if the master was truly good-hearted, if he was truly a good-hearted man after all, but Thorfinn never responded to that, and so I wonder.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I guess I wonder how long has Thorfinn worked for Kettle.
True.
Has it been for all of these almost 1.5 years since we saw him last, or has it just been recently? But it's been longer than Einar, obviously, so he should know a bit more. So was there perhaps something that he knew that he was keeping silent about, perhaps, or I don't know. But yeah, like I mean, I hope he continues to be the good man that he seems to be, but yeah. Can't help but be a little bit suspicious.
Yeah, on the idea of when Thorfinn got there, if he had been there for 1.5 years or just even a year, it seems like he didn't get a whole lot of work done in that forest just by himself.
Maybe he had done other work before that. Like maybe there had maybe the forest thing was like a newer project. Maybe.
Yeah, that's a good point. Either way, if he's a good man, then Einar should be able to go to him and say, "Hey, look, we're not getting the proper food."
Yeah.
then again, maybe he's like, psych, that's the amount of food that you're supposed to get.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Could be.
Which would make it worse if he,
Yeah.
you know.
Uh-huh.
And maybe that's why Thorfinn's like, don't say anything. You're gonna make it worse.
Mm-hmm.
Is he speaking from experience, or is he just being a negative Nancy?
Exactly. Yeah.
Find out next time.
I could. I mean, truly. I mean, I could see either, really. Any other character you want to talk about?
The last person I have any notes on is Floki.
Oh, yeah.
Askeladd mentions that he never learned to see beyond his own losses and gains. And we know that they've worked with each other for a while, on and off, I suppose. Floki is kind of this. He's not like mysterious is not the right word because he doesn't give off an air of mystery. He just seems like a guy in the background who's just, trying to influence things for his own gains, and he's kind of conniving in a way, but not incredibly clever either, though. At least Askeladd could easily outwit him.
Yeah, exactly.
So, don't know. I just don't like him I don't like him getting off scot-free, because he was ultimately responsible for Thor's death.
Yeah.
And I feel like Thorfinn has the right to know that. I don't want him going on a revenge quest, obviously, but I do want there to be consequences for Floki's actions.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's perfectly reasonable.
But I wonder where Floki goes from here. And does he stay in the military, or does he run back to Denmark? I don't know.
Or I think Jomsborg is in like present day northern Germany, if I'm not mistaken. Or is it maybe it is southern Denmark actually? I guess I don't know for sure. Anyway, regardless, yeah, what is he gonna do? Well, remains to be seen. Moving into predictions, I suppose.
So, do you think that they'll be able to get free in 3 years? And do you think it'll actually take 3 years?
Oh yeah.
Like, are we just gonna be on this farm for 3 years?
I'm gonna predict that he and Einar will somehow leave Ketil's servitude in some other way than the way that we know, the way that we've been told. Because I just feel like that's the way the story, like a lot of stories usually go, is like taking the maybe not the route that was laid out.
Right.
Kind of. And I'm gonna say less than 3 years. In less than 3 years, there's in some other way going to get free in some sense. Is gonna be my prediction. What about you?
I think I agree. It's gonna be something different, but I wonder how. And I don't think, maybe I'm wrong, but it certainly won't be a jailbreak, right? Like, or a run for the hills kind of a situation, because they've already established that doesn't really work.
Yeah, and also with how we've seen Thorfinn, that also doesn't really seem like something he would do at this point.
True, although something could change in that.
Fair, yeah, you're right.
I think something needs to change in order for them to have any sort of freedom.
Yeah, well, I mean, Leif could arrive. Like, maybe Leif finds the farm.
Okay, maybe.
Perhaps, maybe. Like, I guess that is one option, at least.
But I think with the introduction of potentially Kentil's daughter and Mr. Simp over here, I think that there's got to be some sort of reason behind it. And if they escape, what, is he taking the daughter with him? Like,
oh yeah,
what was the whole point of that? Maybe it was just comedic, I guess. But it seems like that's going to have more weight on the story going forward.
Yeah.
So maybe he marries into the family and then he frees everybody.
Yeah, dude. I guess that could be a possibility for Einar at least. I mean,
yeah,
potentially.
I don't know how that's gonna happen. I guess he has to woo his way and then somehow convince Daddy Kentil that it's okay.
yeah, he's gonna need like an incredibly good roll on charisma in order to pull that off.
Absolutely.
But I guess another thing is that I'm just really like something I'm not necessarily predicting, but something I'm at least wanting, and I guess partially predicting is that I want to see flashbacks that show us exactly how Thorfinn's life ended up where it is right now.
Okay. Sure.
Because yeah, we have our speculations about how Canute made him into a slave instead of killing him. But I guess I want to know for sure, and I want to see kind of, I guess, in at least a bit more detail what his life has been like for this 1.5 years.
Interestingly enough, when you go to the Vinland Saga map at the back of the final volume, it shows an arrow to Jutland and from England, and it says the route is unknown. Basically,
oh yeah,
I think that implying Thorfinn's
right.
route is unknown.
Exactly, yeah, like somehow, like yeah, we don't know exactly how he got there.
Right. If it didn't matter, then
Oh.
why bring up the unknown?
Yeah,
Right.
that's a really good point.
So maybe they'll bring it up.
Yeah, in that case, I'm gonna double down on that. That we will get.
Double
We will
down.
get that.
Yeah. As for other characters, I mean, I don't know how history goes down with this. I've avoided looking it up, so you can laugh at me at all you want. But I wonder if there's going to be some sort of civil war between the Canute side and the Herald side. Like, it just, especially with Floki, who seemed to be Team Herald, I just wonder if he's going to take the whole Canute taking over the military lying down. And maybe that will happen for a few books that we don't see the ramifications of that. But to me, when Thorkell is talking to those, I guess, chieftains, and they're saying, well, it's too bad the war is over. He's like, oh, I don't know about that one.
Right.
Maybe he could be hinting at the death of the king. But I think he may be betting on some conflict after that.
Oh. Something that he somehow foresaw?
Well, maybe more like he could just tell if things go down this route, then it'll end up being war.
Okay, gotcha.
And to be fair, everyone, when the king was dead, was saying, oh, great, we're going to have to fight against the English again. So maybe that's what he was hinting at. But I wouldn't be, I don't know. I wonder if there is some sort of conflict with his brother.
Yeah, I mean, there definitely is, I think good potential for conflict there. And it all really depends on, like, kind of where the story is going to put its focus, I suppose.
Right.
Since,
right.
yeah, Thorfinn isn't where the rest of them are. I mean, it's definitely a possibility that the focus is split, that we get,
I guess it could go that way.
Some chapters that are completely without Thorfinn and some chapters that are completely with Thorfinn. And that way we could still have Canute and Thorkell be, remain major characters. But
right.
At the very least, we're going to get to know Einar some more, and that's something that I'm excited for.
I'm open to it.
And I expect him to stick around. He's probably not gonna, or I guess my speculation is that he's not gonna stick around until the very end of the whole series, but he's going to stick a while, or he's gonna stick a while. He's gonna stick around for a while, at the very least, I think.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't know. That's really just a gut feeling.
Right. I think that's all I have, really.
Yeah.
I guess my whole prediction that Thorfinn's village would be taken over by that one guy.
Oh yeah, Halfdan.
I guess that's not a thing, maybe.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess that whole idea is maybe down the drain there.
Maybe. I suppose we'll see. I hope we'll see. I hope we'll see them safe soon.
Yeah, I think that's all I got.
Yeah, me too.
I guess Willy Ball he's shaved and now he's just drinking to his heart's content like that. No more Willy Ball. Like, see ya.
Yeah.
Thanks for confusing everybody.
No, he was great. He had a great run, I think.
Yeah, he had a great run.
For sure. And if this was the very last we saw of him, I think that was a good final bit, I thought. As like ending it on a gag in a way. But yeah, feels great to be caught up with any of the little things that I knew of this. I will say that there were even a lot of these bigger moments in the manga, like throughout these 8 volumes that I hadn't remembered. So like a lot of the speculations and stuff that I've talked about throughout this discussion series so far have been legitimate speculations and stuff, even though some of it kind of was answered or not answered in the parts that was covered in the anime. So yeah, just wanted to make that clear, that a lot of this has actually been real speculation. I mean, yeah, it has, like, anything that has seemed like speculation has been real speculation, basically. But from now on, there will be not even a chance of me knowing anything at all, not even anything small. So I'm very excited to move forward from here with that in mind.
Absolutely. We're actually getting into the story now.
Exactly.
Plot, apparently.
We are past the prologue. Yeah, that was really funny. Yeah, wonderful. I think that is it, right?
Yeah, that's all I got.
Cool. Then, if you enjoy our content, you can follow us on Twitter at Umami Manga, and it would be lovely if you'd like to support us by either rating our show on the podcast platforms or subscribing to our channel, Umami Manga, on YouTube. If you like this episode, please share it with anyone you think might enjoy it too. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time when we'll talk about volumes 9 and 10. Bye-bye!
See you later!